Today we are celebrating Leaders Against Litter. It's our signature event. It's an annual event, and communities all over the state come together this morning. Their elected officials, business leaders, community leaders, all come together to take a stand for a litter-free Louisiana.
Keep Louisiana Beautiful is the premier anti-litter and litter education organization, and it is a way to remind our leaders and everyone in the state that the tenets of Keep Louisiana Beautiful are to be lived and acted upon for 365 days a year. So while we do a cleanup today and we get the leaders of our state to come out and support us, it's really a reminder, and we renew our vows to do the work of keeping Louisiana beautiful. I would like to thank everyone for showing up today for Keep Louisiana Beautiful's signature event, Leaders Against Litter. Keep Louisiana Beautiful is not just an organization, but it's a state of mind, and it's a way of acting 365 days a year. Leaders Against Litter is not just an event, but it's like a booster shot or a vow or a New Year's resolution to remind us that we need to act in accordance with the principles of good stewardship of the earth every day. And I'd like to thank Governor Edwards and First Lady Edwards for coming out, and for all of the many volunteers that they brought with them from the governor's staff. And thank you, Governor.
Well, thank you. This is a great event. Louisiana is too beautiful to litter. I mean, here we are just between the governor's mansion and the state capitol, and we haven't gone 200 yards, and I think we filled up about 10 bags. So I am calling upon everyone to do better, both about picking up litter, but in the first instance, we shouldn't be throwing trash down. There's a proper way to dispose of that. But Leaders Against Litter is an important event in terms of Keep Louisiana Beautiful, the overall campaign. And I do believe it's incumbent upon all of us to speak up, to pick up, and to stand up against litter. And I want to thank Donna for coming out, and all of my office staff who came out. And fortunately, God blessed us with a beautiful day to pick up litter and make our community here that much more beautiful. And so at this point, we're ready to sign the pledge.
All right, well, good.
We all need to say, love the boot, don't pollute.
Okay, great. And now we're going to sign the pledge board. Thank you.
Governor, tell us, what did you fish out of the stream here today?
Oh, wow. Lots of paper, plastic bottles, beer cans. We had styrofoam containers, cups, and to-go meals, and just about anything you can think of I picked up. I picked up a baby's pacifier a while ago, and anyway, it was just an assortment of things, and we haven't gone but about 100 yards. This is an exciting thing to do for Louisiana. We are the sportsman's paradise here. God has blessed us with an awful lot of natural beauty. It's incumbent upon us to keep it beautiful, and you don't do that if you're littering. So Leaders Against Litter, I think, is important in the overall campaign of Keep Louisiana Beautiful. Donna works on this as well, and in fact, she's the one that does more than I do in coordinating and helping with these campaigns. But I just call upon everybody across the state, not just leaders, but everybody, to do a better job in picking up litter. But in the first instance, we got to stop littering so much. I mean, there's just something about folks here in Louisiana. We're too lackadaisical about that. We need to do better.
I do want to say, in Louisiana, we like our trucks, and we like to throw things in the back of our trucks, and we forget sometimes that when we're traveling down the road, the wind picks up the trash and tends to throw it on the side of the interstate and the side of the streets. And so let's be aware of that too, to it's not just about throwing litter down, but it's how we dispose of our litter altogether. So let's be careful too, not to put it in the back of the truck thinking that it's safe there. So, but it's a great day when leaders come together. Everything starts from the top down, and so if leaders step up and show others how they can get involved, I think that's where it starts.
We do pretty well with tourism, but we would probably do better if we made sure that we didn't litter, and that when we do, we pick it up and dispose of it properly. But anytime someone comes in and they're looking for to make a decision about where to invest, you want to make the most positive impact possible, and you want to appeal to those individuals that they need to be in Louisiana, and certainly the natural beauty of our state should shine through, not the man-made litter that sometimes is in the street and on the side of the road and so forth. So I think it is important for all those reasons, but it's really about quality of life for the people who are already here more than anything else. I think everybody enjoys a clean environment more than one that's littered and dirty, and so I think for all of those reasons and many, many more that we haven't discussed, it's important that we do better about littering.
It's a daily struggle and it's a daily battle, but it's something that we are committed to, and we won't end until it gets done. So we are seeing a lot of improvement, especially in our efforts to for environmental education with young people. So we have programs that we're rolling out, trying to get to kids at a young age so that we can instill good behavior so that they become good environmental stewards. So we're not fighting and trying to change people's behaviors.
Great to see you all here this afternoon. My name is JUDD JEANSONNE. I'm Executive Director of Volunteer Louisiana and the Office of Lieutenant Governor. I'm also a proud advisory board member for Keep Louisiana Beautiful. Leaders Against Litter is a signature KLB event that engages community leaders, elected officials, and volunteers of all backgrounds and ages in a day of service for one common purpose: to keep Louisiana beautiful. And today was an outstanding day and a testament to the great work that's been done on this event. Now, in an ideal world, our civic pride and sense of personal responsibility would compel each of us as citizens to be caretakers of our community and stewards of our environment each and every day. Keep Louisiana Beautiful is working hard to make that a reality, and events like Leaders Against Litter bring us closer to that goal. But we still have a long way to go. The hard truth is that Louisiana's litter problem is a chronic one, and it is not one that we can simply clean our way out of. Keeping Louisiana beautiful will require a change in culture, and that change is going to need to include educating our citizens, maintaining and building out waste disposal infrastructure, and finally, active and engaged enforcement of our litter laws. It will also require cooperation and collaboration between and among all branches and levels of government. And I think the outstanding panel that we have assembled here today is a testament to the progress that's being made on that front. And finally, it's going to take the type of active and engaged citizenship that we saw across Louisiana today. So thank you to everyone assembled for this press conference. Thank you to all the participants who were active in the cleanups throughout Louisiana today, including our 27 KLB affiliates, the over 800 volunteers, and of course, our state and local leaders. Give yourselves a round of applause.
1984, Dr. Seuss published a book called the Butter Battle Book. And in that book, there were two societies or cultures. They lived on opposite sides of a long curved wall. There were the Yuks and the Zooks. And the Yuks, they had one dispute really. The Yuks liked to eat their bread with the butter side up, and the Zooks liked to eat their bread with the butter side down. And of course this led to an arms race and the threat of mutual assured destruction. And sometimes I think that Americans, including Louisianians, are like the Yuks and the Zooks. We sometimes find ways to disagree about everything. On almost every issue, we retreat to our respective camps where we huddle with our like-minded tribesmen and plan our attacks and defenses. And, you know, there are a lot of battles that are won and lost, but the wars kind of rage on. The issue of litter, however, is one about which there is no disagreement. We have no organized opposition. As far as I know, there's no organization called Keep Louisiana Trashy, and there was no event today, Leaders Love Litter. So why, when we have the field to ourselves, is it so difficult to eradicate this blight on the state's beauty and economy and our quality of life? And well, for the answer, of course, I turn to another comic, which I found out today is only for old people, but it's Pogo. And for the poster publicizing the first observance of Earth Day in 1970, the comic's creator, Walt Kelly, he illustrated a poster, and he had his possum saying, We have met the enemy and he is us. I think that's our problem. We are our worst enemy, and our self-inflicted wounds result from ignorance and thoughtlessness, laziness, neglect, and even bad intent on some occasions. We all know the toll that litter is taking on our peace of mind, our quality of life, economy, safety, health, property values. We know its deterrent effect on attracting new businesses, keeping old businesses, which means keeping jobs. We know about the enormous financial drain that it puts on the state's coffers. Plastics now, in particular microplastics, are causing catastrophic effects on our marine environment. The plastics are being found in our fish. Our seafood industry will be the first to suffer. It's a growing menace, yet we continue to promote single-use plastic containers, and we do almost nothing to eliminate or discourage the use of plastic bags. We need to find the political courage for some meaningful changes in this area. We know we have to teach our children that littering is unacceptable. We now have legislation making litter education mandatory for grades K through 5. KLB, with others, developed a toolkit for teachers, and our staff has traveled the state putting on litter education workshops. But the education component will not reach its potential without an education facilitator to go into each school district to make sure the lessons are being taught and being taught correctly. We need to also implement metrics that will let us know whether the program is working. So we're going to need seed money for a huge return on the investment. And I'm happy to say that Secretary Brown has talked to our executive director, Susan Russell, about a potential source for this money, and I'm bringing it up so that it's out there in the open. I'm subtle. Similarly, we know that some people are hopeless, thoughtless cads who care nothing for their planet or their fellow man. And for these people, I advocate punishment. Punishment pure and simple. KLB supports litter courts and enforcement training. And we offer a litter ordinance handbook template on our website. Demand that your local governments have meaningful litter laws and demand that they enforce them. Meanwhile, KLB will utilize an expert on establishing litter courts and law enforcement protocols within local communities. Volunteer for cleanups. Make sure your businesses and public spaces have adequate trash receptacles. Donate to KLB. Letters to the editor are fine, but what we really need is civil, well-reasoned demands for political courage, statesmanship, private sector partnerships, financial support, and above all, mindful action at every level and in every situation, public and private. And when your political leaders take positive action against litter, as they do so often, don't hang them out to dry. Encourage them, reward them with your votes, support them. Parents, teach your children well. Children, teach your parents. Teachers, let us help you implement our litter education program. Coaches, use your influence on your players and staff. Sportsmen, guard your paradise. Holy men and women, remind your flocks to be good stewards. And everyone, reflect and take action. Keep Louisiana Beautiful will continue the fight, and we stand ready to support those who would join us. We don't care whether you eat your bread with the butter side up or the butter side down. And we will not rest, we cannot rest, until we're able to say with one voice that we have met the enemy and he is defeated. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As you said, I'm Ed Pratt. I'm the Director of Communications at the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. I'm representing my boss, Wildlife and Fisheries Secretary Jack Monteith. He could not be here today, but he sends his best wishes. He applauds the work of Keep Louisiana Beautiful and the work of the Lieutenant Governor, Billy NUNGESSER, and the Leaders Against Litter team. Secretary Monteith shares their passion for eliminating the litter program that dogs our state. I just want to let you know that we had about 18 volunteers today who picked up 30 bags of trash. And I see Thomas Grisham, our guy, our leader over there, totaling 289 pounds from areas near our Quail Drive headquarters. That's a lot. To borrow from a phrase I heard on a television commercial, getting rid of trash is a nasty job, but it's picking up. Let that sink in for a minute. Okay. Enough of that. Secretary Monteith on a number of occasions has lamented the litter he has seen on the waterways and the wildlife management areas that our agency oversees. To that end, we have stepped up our enforcement of the litter laws across 1.6 million acres of Louisiana sportsman paradise that the department manages. We have doubled down on the penalty phase when we arrest persons for litter violations. Our enforcement agents are on notice from Bayou Macon in East Carroll Parish to Sabine Island in Calcasieu to Pointe Chien in Lafayette Parish to Spring Bayou in Avoyelles Parish. We are working with district attorneys to help in the collection of financial penalties that accompanies litter violation citations. Last year, we issued 606 citations for littering. We're not happy with that. We want that number cut in half and eventually reduced to a dozen. Look, we can hope. Secretary Monteith is dedicated to the fight, so much so that he sometimes complains in staff meetings about the trash he and his grandson collected while out in his boat. However, he also sees those times as teaching moments for his grandson. The over 800 employees at the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries supports this effort and will be on the front line to make our sportsman paradise a cleaner place for today and for future generations. Again, Secretary Jack Monteith thanks Lieutenant Governor NUNGESSER, Keep Louisiana Beautiful, and Leaders Against Litter for this invitation. Thank you.
My guys followed me over to this press conference, and I was surprised. We had 28 volunteers this morning that went out and covered a 15-block area and ended up with 25 96-gallon bags full of trash. Most of it was small, glass, small pieces of plastic, cigarette butts. Can you imagine? Between Spanish Town and Florida Boulevard and 8th and 11th Street, is that correct? That's what they picked up in 2 hours. So it's a major problem. Now I talk about learned behavior and how my daughter is 23 years old this year, has never been in a car without a seatbelt. I brought her home in a car seat. She will never get in a car and not put on a seatbelt. It's learned behavior. That's where we all are going with this litter issue, because it is a learned behavior. That's why we got to get into the schools. But what I'm going to talk about today is the enforcement side of things. I've had enough. Period. Yeah, we're not getting any better. We're not getting any better. You know, you ride up and down the streets, and everywhere you go. I just got back from St. Paul, Minnesota last night. I was up there for a week for a conference, and just talking to some of the locals. They go, if somebody dropped a piece of trash on the ground, 3 people would tell them to pick it up. I'm like, well, why don't we have that same kind of cultural change? And that's what we've got to do. But until we get there, I'm working with my state police partners, my wildlife and fisheries partners, all of our agents that go out. I'm going to give everybody a number to call. It's the 1-888 litterbug number, 1-888-548-7284. You call, you take a picture of the license plate when you see her or him throw that cigarette butt out. You call that number and you give them a copy of the license plate number. You let them know where you saw whatever happened. And first offense is a $150 fine and up to 8 hours of community service. We have got to get tough. I've had enough. I'm going to ask our guys, I'm going to ask state police to do surveillance, to stake out some of the high traffic areas. Commissioner, I don't even have any sympathy if it blows out of the back of your pickup truck. You need to know what's in the back of your pickup truck.
I got a lid on my truck.
Well, so it can't blow out.
Check.
You know, so let's get tough. Let's stay committed, because it is all of our responsibilities. But I'm committing to you today that we're going to get tough. We're going to start finding folks. We gotta make a paradigm shift. It's got to change. There's nothing attractive about somebody throwing out a trash bag out of their car onto the ground. What kind of mentality does that take? It's just ridiculous. So, are y'all with me? Yeah. All right, thank you.
There's some consistency in what you're hearing folks say, and it starts with young people, it starts with education. And in my personal life, I serve as Scoutmaster for Troop 271, and I tell all my boys, everywhere we go, we exercise leave no trace. And we tell them, whenever you leave the house, you're dressed and you have garbage bags, and it's your left pocket and your right pocket, and we use it wherever we go. And that's an important practice to have. But beyond what we do in our volunteer lives and our personal lives, we have a responsibility as citizens and as public officials, and I'm happy to tell you that DOTD has stepped up in ways that we have not stepped up before. You see, we share the mission of many of the folks in this room, many of the folks that sit on this panel, in terms of making Louisiana a much more attractive and a much more beautiful state than it already is. This past year, we spent $9.2 million collecting litter and maintaining property around the state of Louisiana. That equates to about 20 miles of asphalt, about 5 miles of concrete. And I would like nothing more than to spend that money doing that. And in that process, we picked up 63,000 cubic yards of litter. That equates to over 200,000 55-gallon drums, and that's far too many. So when we saw that figure, it's very similar to what we had last year. I made a commitment, I think, when I was here, that we would take some strategic action. So I'm happy to tell you, as we renegotiated our logo signs, we're going to have about 300 signs added to the system that's going to say "Do not litter," give you the 511 LA, and buckle up, because there is a connection between safety and litter. When you pick up lounge chairs and mattresses, and we talked about that yesterday, it can be a very unsafe thing. Even our Lieutenant Governor hurt his hand picking up a tire on the road, traveling across the state of Louisiana, and cut himself trying to pick up trash in traffic. Now, I don't know why Billy's running in traffic, but I'm happy to know he made it here safely today. The other thing we did, and this is something I'm very proud of, and I'm making a commitment today, and my staff always gets worried when I come out in public and I make these kinds of commitments, because that means we got to go back and deliver, right? So we made a commitment last year that we would have a litter day for the state of Louisiana. And you should know that we had over 800 people, not volunteering, but working, spending the day picking up litter around the state of Louisiana. That was yesterday and today. And you need to know that we picked up 4,825 garbage bags as of yesterday. That doesn't include today's numbers, and that is far too much trash to have on our system. And so I'm excited to tell you that that's an effort that we want to invoke on a quarterly basis. I'd love to do it more than that, but we've got potholes, we've got all kinds of things that we can be doing on our system to make it safer and better and more efficient for businesses and families. But until such time that we can start to invest and buy more sweepers and buy more drain cleaners and everything else that we absolutely know we don't have enough money for today to do, we're going to make that quarterly commitment to dedicate those 800 plus people on a quarterly basis to picking up trash. And I would like, much like some other folks said today, have that number decrease. So if we had 4,825 bags in this one day, I shudder to think that we would want to go up the next quarter when we go out and do that. I appreciate your commitment. I appreciate your work and your passion, not just those people who are employees, but those who are volunteers, because that is a passion and a calling, much like civil service for many of us sitting up here. And so we thank you for your time. We thank you, Judd, for your work, and we are happy to be a part of this group of leaders against litter. So thank you so very much for having us.
I'm very proud to be here with our fellow leaders against litter. You know, when we start talking about Keep Louisiana Beautiful, I was there as a legislator, a young legislator at the time, and that's been about 18, 19 years ago. And Governor Forestry says, you know what, Miss Alice is tired of this litter. We're going to do something. We're going to pass a bill. And he said, I'm not telling you to vote for it, but if you vote against it, you're going to have to answer to Miss Alice, right? That was the easiest bill we ever passed. And keep it in place, and it makes a tremendous difference. And I'm very proud of the ag team. We were out this morning working around the LSU lakes and then around the canal that goes up South Stadium Drive, right? Picking up litter, 15 volunteers and a truckload of litter. Now, we did launch a small P-row into the canal, and Dr. Sessoms, as he was getting into the P-row just to make sure everything was right, well, he slightly missed the P-row. And so I've asked him, said, did you see any litter at the bottom of the canal? He said, not that I could see. But they filled it up several times, and he says, we got to get a bateau, a flatboat, and go in there and get to the drainage system, because the drainage system is stopping up. And it's right there on Stanford and South Stadium Drive. You got that, right, Doc? You're giving that to Chuck, right? No. He said, we're going to go get it. But it makes a tremendous difference. This morning, first thing, I was given a talk to the association, the Southern Regional Association of Fairs and Festivals, from all over the South and people from Canada. You know, one of the things when people come into the state, they look and see this gorgeous, this beautiful place that we have. They also see the litter. And that makes a big difference. When we're trying to get companies for economic development to come in and bring their persons in to build a plant, to invest billions of dollars, they look at several things. And one of them is the litter. Because it is a measure of our state and of our people. A few moments ago, you asked me, so what does litter mean for agriculture? You know, when you start talking about the problem with the microparticles of plastic in the fish, but also, you know, the recent flooding that we've had from all of the storms where the litter stops up the drainage systems, the plastic bottles, the paper waste, it accumulates in those drainage systems, but also it floats into the fields. The livestock will eat the litter, causing terrible problems. Also, when our equipment hits that litter, especially if it has metal in it, and hey, you have shards of hard plastic or shards of metal that get into the hay or get into the other things that our livestock eat, it is a hazard and it causes terrible problems. Now, I can tell you on our farm, every night when I'm going home, if I'm driving and Susan says, pull over, right? That means somebody has thrown something out, right? Or it blew out of the back of the truck. So night before last, I did get that office chair, and there was a barbecue pit and trash, and it's like, and again, I knew to get it before Susan got home, right? But this morning she went by our house here in Baton Rouge. She got everything cleaned up, and as we're leaving to come here, guess what had floated into the yard? A plastic bag. So there's a tremendous amount of it out there, and we have to work hard. When I was a young legislator, I called in Cam Movasagi, who was head of DOTD. I said, look, Cam, I got a little bit of a complaint. I've got litter on a rural roadway, Highway 1088. You probably know where it's at. He says, we'll go check it out. He came back and said, Mike, we got to find some money. I said, some money to pick up litter? He said, yeah, because it's $15 a ton. That's a long time ago, right? It was $11,000 worth of litter. Illegal dumping and litter. It costs money to clean it up. And it's something we all have to be cognizant of. And simple things. I tell everybody, if you're going to put litter in your back of your truck, put it in a bucket with a lid. Tie the bag. Don't let it blow out. Do those things, and that's each and every one of us. And you're right, education is the key. Education for everyone. And the harder we do that, the more we can decrease it and put more pride into the state. So it's great that we're all here. And I'm great to see all of you and volunteers. And let's keep spreading the message. Thank you.
Secretary LeBlanc sends his regrets. He had a prior commitment, but I'm happy to be here on his behalf. I had the pleasure of participating in Read Across America, so I instantly knew the yooks and the zooks, so, and chose the better side up, to the kindergartners and the first graders at Buchanan. So as Secretary of the Louisiana Department of Public Safety and Corrections, Secretary LeBlanc is committed to the mission of Keep Louisiana Beautiful. Secretary LeBlanc served on the board during the inception of this program with Governor Forestry and Lieutenant Governor Blanco was in office. Still today, displayed prominently in his office, there's a photo with he and Miss Alice and corrections leaders leading one of the first litter pickup events. Today, we also participating in cleanup, and at headquarters, we had about 53 people clean up around Beauregard Town, but we also had all of our wardens participate throughout all of our prisons throughout the system throughout the state of Louisiana. Through a partnership with the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, our department works to clean up Louisiana highways of litter. In the past year, we picked up 103,156 bags of litter along 1,807 miles of Louisiana highways. DOTD provides us the bags and then returns with the dump trucks to pick up the litter our crews collect and bag up. This partnership is a win-win for our department because we're able to leave things better than we found them, while providing offenders the opportunity to give back to the citizens of our state. Additionally, our wardens work closely with their local communities on special cleanup projects that allow offenders to give back and our prisoners a means to contribute to the communities in which they are housed. Many times, this also includes litter cleanup and several other beautification projects. However, we find that we are often cleaning the same highways and community spaces over and over again and not seeing a decrease in the amount of litter that we pick up. It's consistent with what all of the other leaders have said today. There's too much litter on the highways. There's too much litter to be picked up. Our state's business and citizens must also take responsibility for the mess along our highways. To fight this battle, we must all rally around the mission to keep Louisiana beautiful. First, take responsibility and handle your own litter appropriately, and that's pretty basic. First, A, discard your litter appropriately. One, don't throw it out for someone else to deal with. Second, don't throw it in the back of your truck to blow out as you drive. Get a cover. The commissioner has one. Second, we should all pick up, stand up, and speak up against litter in Louisiana. Lead by example. Pick up litter as you see it. Show that a beautiful, litter-free Louisiana matters to you by standing up at events like these to show your support. Educate others by speaking up against the importance of personal and business responsibility. On behalf of Secretary LeBlanc, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be with all of you today. And let's keep Louisiana beautiful.
Susan, I've got to recognize you. Since I've taken office, your passion and love for Louisiana and cleaning up our state has been contagious. It got me from the first time we met, and from the leaders here today, the department heads. Over the years, I've seen the passion, the enthusiasm, the commitment to what they're doing really making a difference. As I sat there and heard each of you speak, it really touched me. I've never seen that kind of partnership and leadership in Louisiana working together. And I've also got to recognize, besides all of our department heads and their staff and their volunteers, the Governor and First Lady, because it starts at the top. And they have been champions for all of our litter programs and for all of our that we do to clean up Louisiana. I know they were both out today, so let's give the Governor and his Vice President. So today we had 800 leaders who pledged to speak up, stand up for a litter-free Louisiana, and we picked up today 6,246 bags of litter, 126,275 pounds of litter was removed today. That's an incredible job. Now that was 115,000 pounds more than last year, correct? And hopefully, we're glad to pick up a lot of litter, but I look forward to the day I can stand up here and say we had trouble finding litter. We only picked up 5 bags today, and let's try to knock it down to 3 next time. But we know that's not the case. But today we put special recognition on cleaning up Louisiana. As you know, my main job is tourism, and that is such a big part of tourists that visit this state. You know, when you visit a state that's really clean, that warm and fuzzy feeling you get, and how you just feel a little bit better about yourself. And I envision the day when visitors and residents alike can drive from one state to the other and see no trash. So thank the volunteers, your staff, my team up here today. I'm so proud of each and every one of you, and let's continue the fight. Thank you. It gives you a warm and fuzzy feeling when you drive into an area, and we've got so many beautiful swamps, hilly areas in the north, lakes, parks, that are so beautiful. But when you drive into an area that's covered in litter, it really takes the wind out of your sails. So I look forward to a day now with the change legislation that our kids will be taught the importance of keeping Louisiana beautiful in school, that one day we will see a litter-free Louisiana.
Litter actually is a very dangerous thing for agriculture. If you look specifically, go back and look at the recent floods. What happens with litter, first of all, is that it accumulates in the ditches, and then what it can do, and often does, is stop up the drainage system. For instance, this morning, the ag team was working around the LSU lakes, and the litter had backed up into the major drainage system. And so when you take all the plastic bottles and all the paper and that, it causes drainage issues, number one. Number two, when the litter flows in and gets into the fields. So if you livestock, cattle, for instance, will eat a paper bag, they can eat pieces of plastic bottles, and other things if there's metal in them. When that tractor and that bush hog hits that metal, it cuts it in small pieces. When you bale it up in the hay, that metal can get in the hay. The animal eats that with the wire of the small pieces, then what happens, it can cause tremendous problems, including death in the animal. So litter is a serious issue for us, especially when we're harvesting crops or we have livestock. And the bottom line is don't pollute, and make sure that if you have litter, if you have leftover paper bags, if they're going to put them in the back of the truck, put them in a bucket with a lid, put them in a container. And so it's much easier to prevent that, especially those plastic water bottles are a big offender of that. But any litter, no litter is acceptable. Just help us out. Take care of your trash.
It's encouraging. I tell you, we have increased the participation among our state agencies this year, among our top leadership. So this morning we had the governor, the first lady, the lieutenant governor, secretaries from all the major state departments, commissioner of agriculture, and that speaks volumes. So it starts with the state's top leadership setting a good example, saying this is important, and then to have the local leadership follow, and then follow there are the citizens.
I think what they need to do is to make sure they teach their children so that the children come up from the ground up, so to speak, as people who know to respect our state and to not put the litter down in the first place. So we do have an education program through Keep Louisiana Beautiful, and so they can help support us through that, through infrastructure, and also through enforcement. Help our state officials enact the proper laws and to follow through on enforcement of our litter laws.
We've got some great leaders and elected officials that always step up to the plate whenever they're called upon. And there's no better example of that than today across Louisiana, from council members to the governor and his wife, to all our statewide elected officials, congressmen, senators, stepping up to the plate and helping us keep Louisiana beautiful.
Today is just a day to heighten awareness and to engage people and to educate people. Look at today as the beginning. It's the beginning of a new tomorrow for Louisiana, where we're going to draw the line in the sand and say no more. We deserve better than this in Louisiana.
If people have questions like more information, what should they do?
They can go to our website at keeplouisianabeautiful.org.
Love the boot, don't pollute.